Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Cole, that's my name, and this is my channel. And today I'm going to be reviewing Kagurabachi Volume 4, which you'll see up here behind me. Trying out a little new setup thing, some new angles. Got a new monitor and like reset everything up, so hopefully this works better. We'll see. I guess I'll find out in the edit, and if you see this video. But otherwise, yeah, so today is Kagurabachi Volume 4. Volume 5 review will be coming out shortly after this, a few days after. A few more housekeeping things, other than the fact that I got a haircut. After Kagurabachi Volume 5, the series is kind of going to be on hold because Volume 6 doesn't come out till February. But I've got some other stuff cooking that I want to review, and it'll be a little more Western comics oriented on some level, but I still think it'll be enjoyable, kind of similar format. And then I'm also relaunching the podcast that I did on this channel not too long back with my buddy Ethan. That was about Western comics. It was kind of a comic book club type thing, and I had a lot of fun with it. I just didn't like the name, and we put it on hold for a while. But we're relaunching it in December. If you'd like to read along with this month, we're going to be reading. Here, I can show you. We're going to be reading JLA Justice League Tower of Babel by Mark Waid and Howard Porter. So that's going to be this month's book. In the future, like just catch the last episode, and it'll tell you what we're reading for the next month. That aside, that video will be out shortly. So, this is Kagurabachi Volume 4, leaving off from Volume 3. I think I said at the end of the last volume that I was really hyped for this, and I was. It took me a little bit longer to read it than I wanted, but I read through Volume 4 and 5 back to back because it was just that good. The Rakuzaichi arc or whatever, which this will kind of finish out, has definitely been my favorite arc of the series so far. If you see me looking down, it's because I actually wrote some notes. So, starting off, I wanted to correct the record. In the last video, I called the new main character, the character who was added to the main cast, many names. His name is Hakuri Sazanami, and I will try and continue to call him by his actual name. But yeah, I was getting tripped up quite a bit in the last episode. So this volume opens like exactly where Volume 3 ended, obviously. Oh, and also at the top of this, going forward with these reviews, just assume spoilers for the previous volumes, and I'll put which chapters this covers in the description or on the screen at some point. But I'll try and do that in the future so we kind of know where we're at if people are like following along. Anyway, jumps right in from where Volume 3 ended. So Chihiro is storming the Rakuzaichi with the broken half of Cloud Gouger that he has left from the last arc. And he's got some backup with everybody else. And of course, the Rakuzaichi is going to be guarded by Hakuri's family, the Sazanami clan. And I'm blanking on the name of his brother's like elite special forces unit, but they're going to be there. And also the Kamunabi members, the like kind of government law enforcement sorcerers, are also involved. So everybody's involved. This volume opens right up, basically showing off Chihiro just like storming the place. I'm glad I got right into it because it was like really hype to see him kind of whip that stuff out in the last volume. And yeah, he's going to town with Cloud Gouger and fighting. And basically immediately when he gets in there, Hayuki, who is the kind of high-level warrior who was sent to either assassinate or arrest Chihiro in the previous volume, she's back. She's got the like flame arm thing. I still think the flame arm is like not my favorite thing in the whole world, but she's an interesting character. Honestly, she's the most frustrating character in the series for me so far because I feel like it's hard to gauge her motivations. She's kind of doing the shonen thing where ever since Chihiro kind of humiliated her in the last volume, she wants to be the only one who's going to fight him and all that stuff. But also, like, her job is to, like, wrangle him in, too. Essentially, she backs him up in his initial storming of the Rakuzaichi. And her partner, who is the kind of sumo type guy, I don't think it's sumo, but that's, like, what I thought about because I related it to JJK, I think, in the previous episode where I talked about it. But he brings them into his little, like, pocket dimension so they can have a conversation. And basically, she's like, he convinces Hayuki to, like, watch his back and beat everyone up so he can go and steal his sword back and all that. Because, of course, the Kamunami don't want the underworld people to have the sword anyway. And just as a refresher, the Rakuzaichi is the auction for, like, the members of the underworld. So it's all, like, human trafficking and weapons and stuff like that. So, following this, Chihiro gets his moment to kind of move on, and there's a secondary team of Mr. Shiba and Hakuri who are also kind of like going to meet up with Chihiro in the basement where the door to the storehouse is that they're trying to get to. But Chihiro, on his way down there, runs into the guy who ordered the murder of his father. Now, the way that they say it in the volume, he makes it sound like he's responsible for the murder of Chihiro's father, but not that he did it. So I don't know if this is the guy who actually killed him, but I do believe it's the same character from Volume 1, which is a cool payoff, with the tattoo on his hand, and he's got the, like, I think his power is to, like, make trees and stuff. That's what it seemed like it was. So I guess he's Hashirama from Naruto. But regardless, he kind of makes a wall between Chihiro and Hakuri, who's on the other side of the wall. And Chihiro is, like, trying to get downstairs, but he can't. So he gets caught up with this guy, and they fight. And this is where we also establish that Cloud Gouger is, like, losing power, which is, like, a cool, like, time limit thing put on everything. Like, everything has more tension added to it, knowing that Chihiro could run out of, like, power to fight at any point. But, you know, he's very emotional because he's like, this is the guy who's responsible for the death of my father, which is, like, my whole motivation. And I was actually really surprised that this just got kind of ripped out right in the middle of this other thing going on. But I think it serves a really important purpose because it's, like, the catalyst for Chihiro to push through and, like, continue to get stronger. Now, on the other side of this tree wall that this guy made is Hakuri, and he runs into, well, he's down with Mr. Shiba, and he goes to, like, link back up with Chihiro, I believe, and on his way to link back up, he runs into his brother, Soya, who is, I believe, the eldest brother, and kind of the head of that, like, special forces unit of his father's. And his brother initially, because he's very overprotective of him, you know, is, like, crying, and he's like, oh, Hakuri, it's so good to see you, you can come back to us, all this stuff. And Hakuri, of course, rejects him because he doesn't believe in their values and all that. And they start to fight. But, of course, Hakuri can't use sorcery, or at least not yet. And this is kind of, this volume in general is very focused on Hakuri, and it gives him a lot of development in a short amount of time, but I think it really works. It's the best written, like, character moments in the whole series so far. 100%. So, essentially, we get a lot of Hakuri's backstory with how he was, like, in this family where it's expected of you to be really powerful. And, of course, when he didn't have powers, they started to treat him differently. And he started to feel left out from his family. But he also started to see the negative aspects of the things that his family does and believes. During these flashbacks, it's cutting between him fighting his brother and trying to use his sorcery. But he can't. And it's also cutting between another flashback where Mr. Shiba, Chihiro's kind of like backup guy, the guy who's been taking care of him, and a really powerful sorcerer, is explaining the power system to Hakuri. So not only are we getting Hakuri's backstory, we're also getting an explanation of the power system, which I thought was a great way to meld all those things. And also, I was really happy to see that because I'm a big fan of, like, power systems and shonen stuff. I find it very interesting. I will say, it kind of gives me just the, like, at least so far, the base levels of it. It's very much like Chakra from Naruto or Cursed Energy from JJK, or even, like, Ki from Dragon Ball on some level. It's got that very base level. I'm sure there are other intricacies to it that throughout the series we'll get to learn about, and maybe some that I'm forgetting. But essentially, it's like you can reinforce your body with it and control it, and you can also use it to fuel your techniques. It's more similar to JJK, where everybody has a technique, one technique baked into them, like an innate technique. So it's not like everybody can just use every kind of sorcery. Like, Hakuri only has the Isu, like, sound wave blast that his brothers and everyone has. Or supposedly. While this is going on, we're also getting a fight with Chihiro and the guy who killed his father. He's the Hishaku guy. I don't think he has a name yet, so I'm just going to call him Tattoo Hand. But they're fighting, and Cloud Gouger is clearly running out of juice. And Chihiro is, like, bound to the tree wall, and he basically awakens Cloud Gouger to use, like, black lightning, which, it sounds kind of corny, but it is really cool, and it's drawn really cool. And Chihiro busts out and actually fights back, and gets to the point where that guy actually sacrifices his arm, I believe. I could be mistaking that, but Chihiro hits him with something, and he's, like, a little bit down for the count, and then Hayuki shows up, and he just does not want to deal with it. And this is all happening in parallel. On the other side, you know, Hakuri's getting his ass beat. He's, like, actually getting his ass completely kicked, and he's waiting for Chihiro to save him. Because Chihiro tries to break through, and he doesn't right away, but he's waiting for Chihiro to save him. While he's waiting, you know, he's, like, stewing in his misery. You know, he's a puddle of his own blood. His brother's beating the shit out of him because I think at this point he tried to attack his brother and his brother completely swore him off. So now he's just going for the kill, beating the crap out of him. And he's having this other flashback where we get to see why he ran away initially and what kind of turned him to, like, his path of good and joining the kind of good guys team. And basically he was tasked, because he doesn't have any powers, with, like, feeding the human trafficking slaves that his family had. One of them is this pretty girl, and he's trying to get her to eat, and she won't eat because she just wants to die. And it shows over the course of time, he kind of talks to her, makes her feel better, and she kind of tries to tell him, like, hey, the way your family treats you is not okay. You're in a prison too, all this stuff. And the tragedy of it, spoiler alert, is that at the end of it, or I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to probably blank that. She unalives herself, so to speak, and it really breaks him. And that's when he runs away and kind of breaks out on his own. And of course, in typical shonen fashion, this is what gives him the push to realize all the stuff Mr. Shiba said, and he unleashes his sorcery and kind of blows his brother back with the sorcery. It's not super strong yet, but the other thing is, during his backstory, we get to hear about his family, and his father has the technique to get into the storehouse and like teleport things around. And they say, oh, there's only been one person in our family, your great great grandfather, whatever, who had two techniques. He was actually one of the only sorcerers ever who had more than one technique. He had the storehouse and Isu. Well, long story short, Hakuri has both. And I will say, giving him the second power serves as more of a plot device than anything to move the plot forward. I don't hate it, though, because it kind of redeems his character where everybody thought he was weak, and he's actually the one who will inherit their family legacy. And he's going to turn it around in his own worldview, like, against the negative aspect of it, which I think is cool. Obviously, some of it is plot serving and all that, but it's cool. And through all of his like flashbacks and memories and gaining these powers, he actually kills his brother. He just like completely takes him out after his brother has just been wailing on him, beating the shit out of him, and he's like his whole life is like flashing before his eyes. And then on the other side, Chihiro then links up with him because Chihiro beat the Hishaku guy who killed his father as well. Or didn't beat him, but like got him to run away. Hiyuki's taking care of the other guys. They link back up with Mr. Shiba, and we get kind of the final battle, final little moment of this volume. So the rest of Hakuri's brothers and sisters, yeah, I think there's one sister, but they're all downstairs in the basement fighting Mr. Shiba. Now, Mr. Shiba's really powerful, but he's having a little bit of trouble keeping up because essentially what it seems like to me, because they introduced the material that made the enchanted blades in a previous volume, is that they've kind of made this drug that can give people the power of the enchanted blades for like a certain amount of time, but it like basically, if their body's not strong enough to hold that amount of spirit energy, they just like eventually die out. And so one of Hakuri's brothers, like the most zealot one, and I think the one that is like the closest to him in age as well, who was like his kind of rival a little bit, takes this kind of enchanted blade drug, and it superpowers them up, and it gives them the powers of Cloud Gouger, which is also, ironically, the sword that Chihiro's using at the time. And so Chihiro's like countering him, they're fighting, and Chihiro does end up defeating him because he understands Cloud Gouger better, and also because this person is going to burn themselves out regardless. I also wanted to mention a funny moment that I liked. When Mr. Shiba is interrogating Hakuri's brothers, he's like standing over them with a cigarette over their eye. And he says, if you don't tell me how to get to that door, your eye's going to be an ashtray. And I just thought that was pretty hard. I'm not going to lie. That was cool. There's a lot of really cool panels. I guess I can bring the book down. I'll put some stuff on screen. There's a lot of really cool panels I liked. I think the art in this volume is like phenomenal. Like this double spread of Hiyuki and Chihiro from the beginning of the volume is awesome. And some of the stuff later. Here's that Mr. Shiba page, actually. Looks like I flipped right to it. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but yeah. There's some really good stuff in this one. I will say, overall, I guess I'll get my rating here. I would say my rating for this one is like an 8 out of 10, and it might be more than that. I think emotionally and character-wise, this has been the absolute best volume in the series so far. I think if you were reading up until this point with the speed of the pacing being a little quick and it being kind of a little bit touch and go with like character motivations and stuff, this volume really changes that. And Hakuri and his whole family dynamic and all of that really drew me in, as well as I think the art is amazing, as it has been previously, but the art is amazing in this volume. The fights are cool. And just kind of getting a volume finally that's not completely centered on Chihiro, I thought was also like a nice breath of fresh air, going back into the fact that he's still the main character, obviously, and everything will be revolving around him in the future. But yeah, I would say like a solid 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this volume in pairing with Volume 5, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So yeah, I guess that's where it is. I don't want to ramble too long. I always just ramble about everything too long. But Kagurabachi Volume 4, solid recommend. definitely pick up the series and get to this point, but this one is really good, and I'm super enjoying the series. If you want to have a conversation about it, hit me in the comments. I will respond to any comments, really, because I know there probably will be zero, unfortunately. If you liked any of this, like, comment, subscribe, all that bull. And, yeah, watch out for more videos. Gonna try and do more stuff. Peace.